What's up, everybody? My name is Alfonso. I am the lead singer of the band Heartsick out of Lansing, Michigan, and you're listening to Brutally Delicious Podcast right here. Make sure you check it out. Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about Heartsick. I guess I'm going to start right with the video. That's Indigo, I believe is the name of it.
Yeah,
that is quite powerful, including your little intro there. How did that come about, and what has been the reaction to it since it's been out, a couple days now?
It's been out a couple of days, yeah. So I want to say that the documentary came out sometime in maybe 2016, but it could have been a little earlier. I'm not sure exactly when, but I was on Netflix. I don't watch TV very often, and if I do, it's just like Netflix and stuff. So I got into this documentary called Audrey and Daisy, and basically I remember it being a big thing on the news for a while. And I don't know if you've seen it, but if you haven't, it's a very, very powerful documentary. And just watching the documentary really kind of inspired me to write, these lyrics to what would become the song Indigo. I had recorded a demo of Indigo, around like that time as well. So it just kind of fit together really well. And the song was kind of on a back burner. And then we started working on new material after the release of our record, Sleep Cycles. So what I ended up doing was just kind of going back into the studio, showing that particular demo to our producer, Josh, and he was like, this is actually really good. So we kind of just developed the song from there. But I mean, it came from Audrey and Daisy, and the whole documentary is basically about these two girls in high school, who went to a party and unfortunately were the victims of sexual assault and rape by some members of the football team. And, unfortunately in small towns like that, it's, people stand by whatever sports figures they have. And, it kind of becomes this sort of insular support system of these kids who can do no wrong. And, it's the age-old story, man. It's like, if you're a woman, you're already facing a bunch of nonsense in the world. And then, you were at a party and you were drinking and you're underage. Right? Well, you were in there. It's never like, the idea that like, okay, but still that shouldn't happen. Like, that's not the normal thing to happen. Right. Like, we shouldn't be having these conversations right. Of like, well, she was wearing a short dress. I mean, look how that has nothing to do with anything. Like, that you don't violate people's body and personal space just because they look a certain way or because they've had
whatever. Right. And that's sort of a timely thing too, right? I mean, and it's not just in the, I know we're here to talk about Heartsick, but you see it, I turn on the TV now, if I go turn it on, it's going to be, all the, I can't speak, all the politicians and record company executives. I mean, there's like an endless line of people, same thing, and everybody's covering it.
Absolutely. And, just so you know, even though I know we're here to talk about Heartsick, I love just having good, honest conversations. So I may be a little different than other people you interview, but I love just having real, honest conversations. Your questions don't have to be just about the band. Right. I want to get to know you and I want you to get to know me and my band as well. So all these things kind of fall in line together. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's just like, it's the climate that we're living in. It just so happens that the song was written before the climate became the actual climate. You know what I'm saying? Like, these things were not in sequence to that, and it just became that thing,
Do you feel when you're writing Heartsick music that you have a platform or that you're trying to get a message across, or did it just so happen with that one song?
No, I mean, I've always wanted to get a message across. Like, we're not a political band, and we're not a sort of, we're not sort of an advocate band or a political band by any means. I mean, I don't see us being a band like Rage Against the Machine, or things of that, or U2 or anything like that, because it's just not something that we all collectively are comfortable with having as like a band. But as far as myself, I've always written things that are in that realm because for me personally, I value being in a band, not only just because obviously as an artist, I want to be validated. I want our work to be validated. I think that if you're an artist and you sort of like shy away from being like, no, it's not because I want it. It is. Like, we're all artists, right? We want people to pay attention to doing, we want to be validated in that way. But I also really want to use it as a platform to advocate for change and positive things in the world. I don't, to have fame or to have some sort of like local celebrity or status for some self-fulfilling purpose isn't something I'm interested in.
Right.
I grew up, in a tough neighborhood. I grew up, as the child of, an immigrant. I grew up in situations with drugs, alcohol, and all that other stuff. And my friends were drug dealers and all this other, growing up in the normal lower middle class sort of thing that you always hear in America. But I also grew up listening to a lot of hardcore music and a lot of hardcore bands. So for me, hardcore and metal has always stood for sending a good positive message. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely use that as a vessel. I'm not as forward as a band like Rage Against the Machine because it's just not something, like I want to toe that line just enough,
So I've got like 20 questions from what you just said, and I'm not trying to play, maybe I will play devil's advocate.
No, ask.
Yeah, okay. You said that most people do this for the validation, I guess was the word you used. I don't know, and I'm not trying to offend you at all. I don't know that that's necessarily true because some people just have like this creative drive that they have to create an escape, right?
No, yeah, no. So I didn't.
Please don't take offense.
No, not at all. Like, I'm not offended in any way. I love it. No, it's not that most people do this for like attention. That's not what I meant. It's most artists, all of us. I think if you're an artist in general, you're creating art based on the fact, one of those reasons is you want to be validated in some way. Like, I don't think anybody sits in a room, whether they're painting, whether they're writing,
or doing this or whatever, right?
Just to like for themselves. Like, obviously we do it for ourselves too, but like, to only do it for yourself is not the only reason why.
Right.
Most have validation and to put validation out there. However that validation comes is completely subjective to whatever the person wants it to be. What I mean is, a lot of people don't want to go past a certain point in where that validation comes in, because then it opens yourself up to a lot of controversy. It could limit how many people are going to like your band or how many people are going to like your art, so on and so forth. Especially nowadays where it's like, depending on where you fall, it's kind of like a lot of artists right now, they don't really want to be involved in the politics. They don't really want to be involved in the social workings of what's happening in the so-called social justice world or whatever it is, because it's kind of like, like if we say something wrong, we can be held accountable and it could mess up. So some people just kind of like, sort of stay in that middle realm. So that's what I'm saying is, for me, it's like, I'm not really afraid to maybe step up just a little bit above that. Like, I know if you go on my Facebook and you go on like my, some of my socials, I'm very much for advocating and certain social issues and social political things, but I'm not afraid if that's going to like hurt my band. Because at the end of the day, it's like, to me, on a personal level, for me, it's more fulfilling to have a voice and make change than to just be like, oh, we have a lot of fans and they like our music. That's cool too. Don't get me wrong.
Well, I think there's two sides to the music thing, right? I know we're way off topic here, but
it's cool.
I think there's music for like, so I'm probably a little bit older than you, and I grew up in like the late 80s, and music was really nothing political. I can't speak today. I'm sorry. It was more like, having a good time and a release and an escape. Whereas I think there's two sides of it. So there's
for sure. No, yeah. But I mean, it's like, and I'm 39, so and you know, I love history. I watch the History Channel a lot. Like one of my favorite subjects in school was history, and it's like, but you see this all the time. I mean, we saw this movement with the hippies, and we saw this movement in the. So it's like it's the same sort of thing in some aspects, just a different time period and a different place in the world.
Yes.
But I think now more than ever, because of the climate that we're living in, it feels more feverish, mostly because everybody has social media, mostly because everybody's been given a voice to some degree, you know. But at the end of the day, I think that, you know, as an artist, I feel for the most part in the orals of history, art was always a way to rebel against the mainstream, right? To sort of, it's always been this sort of way to advocate for things that you believe in, whether it be, you know, social justice things, whether it be suicide, you know, prevention, whether it be, you know, any of these things. I just think that right now it's almost like some people in the industry that are in bands don't want to touch those subjects because it's such a sensitive time right now in society, period, with sort of like everybody being, it's like it feels like you have to be on one side of the fence or the other rather than
do you think that whole societal norm that's what you're talking about there is because everybody's been locked down and everybody is on their phones or their computers 24/7 and it's easier to, you don't have any other distractions, right? You're using your social media as a distraction, and so it's easier to involve in this stuff.
I think that definitely exasperates it, man, for sure. I mean, I think we'd be fooling ourselves if we said that didn't play a role. I mean, we've never had a time in modern history, you know, your generation, my generation, the generation after both of ours, and where like we literally could not do anything that we enjoyed, right? And I think this also goes to show how important social interaction in person is for people with concerts and everything else, right? It's like I think we took a lot of stuff for granted, and now we're in the situation that we're in with COVID, and we're realizing like, holy shit, we kind of do need people to be around. Because a lot of us, you know, I'm one of those people that I'm like, oh, I hate being around people sometimes, blah blah. But then you're like, yo, I've been stuck at home really for the better part of a year. This sucks, you know? So yeah, I think you're absolutely right in that, you know, and that, you know, theory and idea that this being stuck here in the situation that we are, having access to these things like our phones and our computers 24/7 just exasperates what we in general, you know?
People who otherwise wouldn't have had an opinion have nothing else to have to weigh in on whatever.
Exactly. And, you know, and then, you know, bands on top of that having to figure out a way to be creative without like having the one creative outlet that like we're so used to, you know, like,
and still make money, because some people, that's what they do for a living.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely.
So returning to Heartsick then, how does it make you feel when your message, especially from like something like Indigo, connects with somebody? I mean, I'm sure you get like messages, right?
Yeah.
Saying, hey, go ahead. I'm just saying, so yeah, it's probably got to make you feel pretty good.
Absolutely, man. It Be Alive, I said like in some way that I didn't want to be validated, that the guys in my band didn't want to be validated. Right. It feels great to have somebody be like, hey, you know, what you wrote, the message that you're sending, what you're advocating for really speaks to me and it really touched me and I really love it. I think that's like the greatest reward in the world. And mostly because that's the goal that we're trying to go for, but also never forget, I've never forgotten how I felt when I was 15 years old or 16 years old or 21 or 25 or whatever age, meeting my favorite, you know, artist and going, dude, like that song changed my life. Like that record impacted me so much. It's why I am who I am today. You know what I'm saying? So absolutely. I mean, it's the greatest feeling in the world at that time. And it's because of those reasons, because it's, you remember how you felt. So it's, you know, it's genuine, you know?
So I'm going to go ahead and ask you, and I'll tell you mine first. So my first record that absolutely changed my world was walking to a little local record store in my little town in New York and picking up Diary of a Madman. You know, from the cover, Ozzy's Diary of a Madman. And from then on, I mean, I dropped that needle on and Over the Mountain, and my life was never, ever the same again. That just blew me away. What's yours?
And mine, Man, I would say what really did it for me was going to watch Filter. Filter had played a club in Miami, well, in Fort Lauderdale, which is about like 45 minutes from my hometown. And they were playing a show, and Hey Man, Nice Shot was like the biggest song
Right.
at the time. And I'd never been to a rock concert all my life. Like I'd never been to one. And I went to this show, and it was just like the whole atmosphere, just like what it was like. It was just like, it was the wildest thing in the world. And I was like, I have to do this,
Right.
all of the. So yeah, so that's what really solidified me wanting to pursue being in a band really seriously, like making it a career, making it something that I could really focus on and do. Like I started learning guitar when I started learning guitar when I was 13, because my best friend in my neighborhood picked up a guitar. So that was like, well, if he's doing it, I have to do it.
Right.
But then we went to that show, and I was like, that's it, I'm sold. Band thing.
Right.
This
All in. So what
exactly.
what do you have for Heartsick? What's are you doing any live streams or any sort of fan interaction stuff since you can't get out there and play?
um what we've been doing is really focusing on just putting out really good quality content and still connecting with our fans, because right now I think that's the most important part. If you're in a band right now, and it's surprising how many bands haven't done it, but then it's not, because the bands that are popular and have that sort of like, what I would say, like social currency to take time away, not really
And
do
the
anything.
regular currency just to
Yeah,
put something good together.
exactly. So some bands, don't really have to do that. But I think bands in our position and bands just a little bit over us really do. So we've been really focusing on the last year for the pandemic. We have a record out right now. It's called Sleep Cycles. We're just starting to release new singles.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did was basically the Sleep Cycles record was 13 tracks. We did released in that time of the year. We've released 11 videos for that record. We released a vinyl. We did 3 live feeds, and then we have another live feed coming up. So we've been putting content out there and just making sure that people can interact with us, and making sure we're on our socials, just giving people stuff that they can see, that they can bite into. Are we making any real profit from it? No, not at all. But I there's that sort of fine line where it's like, sometimes it's really not about the money. It's about making that connection and retaining those fans and retaining those people and creating a culture out of it. I think you get more out of that.
I agree. So before we go, I've got a couple questions off this podcast in a second, but can I get you to do drop your socials first of all, where people can find you?
Yep. So the easiest way to get to us is just go to our website, heartsick.us. That is like, it's so much easier to do that, because then to rattle off like Facebook, Instagram, like tags change because of how the algorithm works or who had the name first. So if you want to get to anything from us, heartsick.us, that will get you 100% to our Twitter, to our Facebook, to our Instagram, to our Bandcamp, to wherever the hell you want to find us. That'll get you to my personal stuff. If you want to follow me because you want to yell at me or you think I'm interested,
Right.
IG, and it's my name, Alfonso Civile. I'm not that creative with my own social media.
All
So
right.
there, but yeah, heartsick.us, everywhere and anywhere is on our website.